Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. In today's video we are taking a look at the TOG 2, which as you may know is a relatively interesting British super heavy tank. Now this isn't exactly in the game, this is in fact a user made model made by Becket, who is a user of Live.War Thunder. You may have seen some of these other user made models in videos by Baron Von Games and Fly Daily. He's made quite a few models of rather interesting vehicles that I think a lot of people want in game. At least for me though, this is the one of his models that I want to see in game the most. Now obviously in its current state it would not be added to the game. It's a very low sort of detail model, the skin's very basic, so it would obviously have to be improved quite a bit by Gaijin before it's added to the game. Looking at the historical statistics and stats really just of the vehicle itself, the in-game model is actually quite a bit quicker than the real-life TOG 2. As you can see, there's another TOG over there. The armor isn't so good, but if this was added to the game, at least for me, in how I think it should be added, I think it should be a Tier 3, most likely event or premium vehicle. I really do doubt that this would be added as an actual tech tree vehicle, due to the fact that only one of them was actually built in real life. But if it was to be added, I think a Tier 3 premium or event vehicle would be a really good way to go. And also perhaps have it in the battle rating would be somewhere between 4.0 and 5.0. I think that would be pretty good. Putting it any higher than that, it would make it difficult to play. Main reason being that it is a very big and slow tank. And big slow tanks at the higher ratings, as is known with the mouse, isn't exactly a brilliant idea. You will find that very often you will be bombed by enemy aircraft, you will be easily sort of cornered by enemy tanks, and if you're big and slow, you're obviously not going to be able to do very well against small, fast tanks, which is, for example, just think about this thing facing some M18s in like a mixed game or Britain versus America. That would not end well. But as you can see, this gun at least is fairly effective. I'm taking out the Tiger 2 and the Jagd Tiger fairly effectively. I'm doing some damage, and it hasn't actually got a bad reload whatsoever, as is fairly evident. I believe the reload's about 5 to 7 seconds. I haven't actually counted it. There's not a reload timer obviously in game, so you can't see the exact thing, and there's not a stat card for this vehicle as it is user made, so I can't actually get the exact measurement for the reload time, but it is fairly quick compared to most other tanks with this sort of gun. And another thing is this gun is fairly effective. Now, it doesn't obviously say at the bottom of the screen like it usually would which shells I'm using, but according to Becket's official post on Live, this uses APC-BC, APC, and HE shells. So a decent selection there. Now, if this was to be added into the game, say it was a tech tree vehicle with research, I would presume that the stock shells you would get would be APC and HE, and then you would have to research the APC-BC. But of course, if, like I predict, it would be added as a premium or a rare vehicle, it is incredibly likely you would not have to research anything, and it would be just premium, fully upgraded straight away. And of course, with this thing, I doubt you'd be wanting to do the parts and FPE grind with it, as without parts and FP, it's likely this thing wouldn't be the most fun. Now, in terms of the general size, though, this has got a 6-person crew, which does give it decent survivability, and they're not actually that close. It looks, when you go on X-ray, that you would think that they'd be fairly close together, but due to the sheer size of this tank, the crew are actually quite far apart, which does mean that it would have fairly decent survivability against a few shots. I suppose unless someone got one shot that fragmented, like, hugely and was able to kill the entire crew, you would be able to survive a few hits, which wouldn't be too bad. One negative, though, is, we'll look at the X-ray in a sec, but one major negative is that all of the ammunition is pretty much in one place, and you have just a huge stack of ammunition, and if that was to be hit, that would actually most likely go up and just destroy your entire tank. And a funny thing is that majority of this tank is just the engine, as you can see. Pretty much half of the tank is that engine, and then you go to the transmission. There's a lot of empty space though in the tank, which is rather interesting. Now, I did do some research, and from what I can tell, the turret design of the TOG 2 is actually an up-armored version of the same turret that is on, I believe, the Challenger. The, I think it's the, is it the Cruiser Mark 7 Challenger? But we do have the Challenger in game, the early one, not obviously not the tier 6, but it's an up-armoured version of that turret on this massive hull. And for those of you who don't know, TOG stands for The Old Gang. So it was effectively, this was the last tank built by all of the old tank designers. A lot of those people designed tanks in or just after World War One. So as you can probably tell with this design, it is designed for trench combat, which obviously in World War Two was pretty much never a thing. So by the time this came around, it wasn't exactly that useful, hence why only one of them was built and was only tested and never put into production. But as a tanking game, I think it would be fairly decent. The frontal armour apparently is about just over 100 mil of thickness, so it's not like great armor for a super heavy tank, but I think if you put it, if Gaijin did add it and they put it at the right rating with the sort of correct BR, correct tier, all those sort of things, I think the matching wouldn't be too bad and it could actually perform quite well. The turret turn is actually, for a large tank, it has actually got a pretty decent turret turn time. The turret turns pretty swiftly and you can do well. Now the one thing that this isn't so good at, and the same can be said for the mouse, is turning. Turning on the spot. Oh, it doesn't not turn on the spot, it just doesn't turn much. It's, if you wanted to turn on the spot, the likelihood it would take absolutely ages to actually do a full turn. What I find the easiest thing to do is if you want to turn, is to reverse and turn. Going forward and turning is actually more difficult than reversing. The likelihood for that is just because it's very long and fairly thin compared to its length, so the tracks don't actually get much of a turning moment when they go in opposite directions. But anyway, now we are going to attempt to kill the mouse. So we've knocked out all the other vehicles. We killed the Ag Tiger, which is a fairly formidable vehicle. Obviously, I did shoot at it from the side, so it wasn't the best armor, but it was able to kill it. So now we're going to kill the mouse, and it is obvious that this thing, it will not be able to pen the mouse's armor, even like straight on at point blank range. So we're going to have to use the good old tactic for hitting the mantlet and the lower bit of the turret to bounce it down into the engine. As you can see, we've already taken out one of the radiators. It will take a while, but if you can't pen the mouse, this is the best way to take it out. I would advise, first off, taking out the guns, so the mouse can't actually shoot you. Do take out both of them, just in case that 45 can pen your armor. And once you've done that, just try and bounce them in. Hope he doesn't move his turrets, but there we go. Ooh, okay, that was pretty damn close. We are hitting it, and hopefully we'll get that into the red soon and be able to completely destroy the tank. But anyway, back to just while we're doing that, back to general conversation about the TOG. I think it would probably fit the game. It would be one of those sort of oddball tanks, sort of like some of the event tanks we've had over the last few years. Possibly like sort of the Lorraine 155, those sort of things. It's an oddball tank. It's the kind of thing that there won't be anything quite like it in the game. This model made by Becket is amphibious. I couldn't find anything to say whether the real TOG was. I presume it's not. So, you know, that's up to debate. I don't know if they added it in, if it would. But the likelihood is, even if this was to be added to the game, it would be a very long time until we actually saw it being added. But I will say it is one of the things, mostly just for comedic, sort of humorous purposes, is the thing that I would love to see added to the game. At least for ground forces. I play tanks a lot, but it's mostly aircraft that are on my sort of wish list of vehicles to be added. But despite this model being fairly old, it was very old, wasn't actually able to be played for quite a while due to it being out of date, and it was updated, I believe, over the last few days by Becket, so thanks a lot to him for updating it and just for making the model in the first place. I will leave a link to his live.warthunder profile in the description, so do go give him a look, give him a subscription on live.warthunder, give his post a like, and give the TOG a go as well. But yeah, so I think fairly decent vehicle, definitely something I would like to see. Let me know in the comments, what do you think of this tank being added? There are obviously pros and cons to it being added, but I don't know, let's have a discussion, let's see what you guys think. Let's have a discussion. Do we want it in? Do we not want it in? How do we think it will perform? Obviously, urban maps are going to be an issue, but I think this would generally perform quite well if you know what you're doing with it. But anyway, thanks a lot for watching the video. If you did enjoy the video, please consider leaving a like, maybe even subscribe to the channel. If you do, that would be massively appreciated. We've had lots of sub game recently. It'd be great to keep that going. Anyway though, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.